It's every hockey player's dream to hold up that Stanley Cup at the end of the season, and listen, I am certainly not taking anything away from anyone who has the talent to make it in the big leagues and make a career for themselves playing the game at the highest level possible. But with that being said, there are a lot of players who have underperformed and barely contributed to their team and still have the rings to show for it. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the 7 worst NHL players to ever win the Stanley Cup. Kimmo Timonen. Kimmo Timonen's hockey career ended on the ultimate high, skating around the ice with the Stanley Cup after the Chicago Blackhawks defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6 of the 2015 Stanley Cup Finals. However, in that season, the defenseman only played 16 games and failed to produce any points. He also had one of the worst plus-minus ratings on the team with a -3 and didn't block a lot of shots with an average of less than 1 per game. As for the playoffs, he appeared in 18 games, but again, did not record any points and averaged just 0.7 block shots per game. This 12-time 30-plus point producing defenseman was clearly at the end of his career, as his last NHL season was with the Stanley Cup winning Blackhawks in that 2014-2015 season. But unfortunately, he didn't do much to contribute to his team's success that year. Out of respect for the 16-year NHL vet, Timonen was the first player to receive the cup from Blackhawks captain Jonathan Toews. Timonen did have a solid career in the NHL with 571 points in 1,108 regular season games and appeared in 105 playoff games, notching himself 35 points. However, his level of play in that last season just wasn't where it used to be. Josh Archibald. Josh Archibald won the Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins in the 2016-2017 season. Archibald was among a bunch of players who stepped in and played small but important roles for the Penguins in their second straight run to the Stanley Cup in 2017. The Penguins, who selected him in the 6th round of the 2011 NHL Draft, signed Archibald after his college season ended. Archibald made his NHL debut with Pittsburgh on March 5th, 2016 against the Calgary Flames. It wasn't until the following season where he earned a more consistent spot in their lineup, as he was called up February 11th of 2017 and scored 2 goals in his first game against the Coyotes. He finished that season with 3 goals in 10 games. He also delivered 28 hits, which averaged out to be 2.8 per game. He then went on to appear in 4 playoff games, but failed to produce any points. However, he did continue to play a physical game with 9 hits, which again averaged just about over 2 per game. Despite being a decent player in the short amount of time that he had to make an impact, along with adding a physicality to the team, Archibald did spend a lot of time going back and forth between the AHL and the NHL, so he wasn't a huge asset to the Stanley Cup winning Penguins that year. Shawn Thornton. Drafted in the 7th round, 190th overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1997, Shawn Thornton has not only won 1 Stanley Cup, but he's done it twice. The first time he hoisted up Lord Stanley was with the Anaheim Ducks in the 2006-2007 season. In that season, this left winger tallied just 9 points in 48 games played, which ranked him 18th on the team. Known to drop his gloves, he racked up 88 penalty minutes, which included 12 majors. However, he only averaged 1 hit per game, which is surprising for this type of physical player. He also saw little ice time with an average of 8 minutes and 26 seconds per game, which was the lowest among his teammates who played in at least 33 regular season games. He then appeared in 15 playoff games but failed to produce any points and had the worst plus-minus rating on the team with a -3. Although Thornton was a known enforcer who can defend his teammates, he unfortunately didn't do much else in regards to contributing to the Ducks' successful run for the Stanley Cup that season. Then in the 2010-2011 season, Shawn Thornton found himself in a bit of a different situation, playing for the Boston Bruins and contributing 20 points in 79 games played in the regular season. That's pretty solid for a 4th-line enforcer grinder type player and could really help give the team the depth they need in the playoffs. Well, the Bruins did win that year, but Thornton only managed to contribute 1 assist through 18 postseason games. Daniel Carcillo. The only stat Daniel Carcillo has ever thrived in was penalty minutes. In fact, during the 2007-2008 season, he led the NHL with 324 of them. It was never expected of him to be the most skilled player on the ice or to even really help produce. He was more of a character guy who was called upon to play with edge, which definitely led to him getting out of hand on the ice in more than one occasion. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that he won 2 Stanley Cups during his time with the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2012-2013 season and then again in the 2014-2015 season. In that first cup run, Daniel Carcillo recorded just 3 points in 23 regular season games. He did average 1.6 hits per game, which ranked him 6th on the team though. As for his time on the ice, he saw the 3rd lowest amount on the team, which was just under 9 minutes. He then played in 4 playoff games and produced 1 assist. He also delivered 8 hits, which averaged out to be 2 per game. Carcillo was a physical presence, but he wasn't much help when it came to contributing to the offense. Now, in that second Blackhawks 2014-2015 Cup run, he wasn't much better with just 8 points in 39 regular season games, and then he didn't even appear in one single playoff game that year. Aaron Downey. Throughout his 10-year NHL career, Aaron Downey never tallied more than just 5 points in a single NHL season. In fact, he never really played more than 43 games in a single season, except in the year where he won the Stanley Cup with the Detroit Red Wings, which was the 2007-2008 season. During that season, the right winger tallied just 3 assists in 56 games played, which ranked him as the worst among his teammates who played at least 10 regular season games. He also had an extremely low 15 shots on goal, which was the lowest among guys who played at least 8 games. He did rack up the most penalty minutes on the team with 116, which included 10 majors. Although he was known for a physical game, he averaged 1.4 hits per game, which only ranked him 9th on the team. He only averaged just 4 minutes and 35 seconds of ice time per game, which was the lowest on the entire team. Adding on top of that, he did not appear in a single playoff game. Despite being able to defend his teammates, Downey contributed very little to this Red Wings Stanley Cup winning season. Adam Burish. Now here's another player who was part of one of the Chicago Blackhawks Cup runs. Adam Burish won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks back in 2009-2010. Throughout his entire NHL career, this right winger could not reach the 20-point mark in a single season, and in the 2009-2010 season where the Blackhawks won the Cup, Burish produced just 4 points in 13 games played. In those 13 games, the tough guy got into 2 fights, but he wasn't very physical in regards to throwing his weight around, tallying an underwhelming 9 hits. Once the playoffs rolled around and the intensity levels turned up a notch, he appeared in 15 games, but failed to produce a single point. Well, that's fine. He's not there to score. He's there to be physical, right? Well, he also had the 3rd lowest average of hits with just 0.6 per game. He was pretty much no help at all to the Stanley Cup winning Blackhawks that season, and the only good thing he contributed was an entertaining feud with elite defenseman Chris Pronger. George Perros. In a career that spanned 9 seasons where he played for 5 different teams, like the majority of players on this list, Perros wasn't brought onto rosters to stack up the score sheet. He was there to do one thing: make the other team's life a living hell. In 474 regular season games played, he racked up 1,092 penalty minutes and 36 points. Fortunately for Perros, he found himself on a very talented Anaheim Ducks team who made the postseason 4 times in 5 years between the years of 2006 and 2011. In the 2006-2007 season, the Anaheim Ducks won the Stanley Cup, and during that season, Perros played 32 games and recorded a total of 1 goal and racked up 102 penalty minutes, which included 18 majors. Well, at least he was being physical, right? Well, that actually wasn't the case either. Unfortunately, he was only being physical in ways that cost his team, as he averaged less than 1 hit per game with 0.8, which is quite surprising for such a physical force on the ice. He also just averaged 5 minutes and 8 seconds of ice time per game, which was the lowest among his teammates who played at least 2 regular season games. When the postseason came around, Perros only appeared in just 5 games and didn't tally any points. Besides dropping his gloves, Perros didn't contribute in any other major category for his Stanley Cup winning team that year. On top of that, through 19 playoff games played, Perros finished with a -1 with 35 penalty minutes. Geez, now those stats are tough to look at. Thanks for watching our videos. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.